Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive with us.
I'll be back.
So today we're going to be looking at a tale from the Hasidic tradition, and it's attributed to Rabbi נחman of Breslau.
All right.
And I think listeners might be, a little bit surprised at just how many intriguing details are packed into this seemingly simple parable.
Yeah, it's like one of those Russian nesting dolls,
Oh,
Every time you open it up, there's another little piece inside.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so to set the stage, the story starts with a king throwing this huge feast to celebrate a big military victory.
Sure.
We're talking like epic proportions here, with entertainers from all over the world.
Right. But amidst all this extravagance, there's this one detail that really sticks out to me.
Okay.
The king is totally captivated by this book, and it's outlining the customs and etiquette of all these different cultures.
Huh. It makes you wonder, why is he so curious? I mean, shouldn't he be out, basking in his victory or something?
Yeah, no, right?
Yeah.
You'd think he'd be, celebrate. But this whole fascination with different cultures really sets the stage for some of the deeper themes that we're going to see emerge later on in the story.
So, okay, he's engrossed in this book, and he notices something peculiar happening on the pages. A spider is trying to catch a fly across the turning leaves of this book.
Yeah, and it's such a vivid image, isn't it? This tiny little drama playing out against this backdrop of, global customs.
Yeah. Do you think it's actually significant, or is it just kind of a random detail?
Well, the story really emphasizes how much the king focuses on this.
Yeah.
So it has to be important, right?
Yeah.
It's like this little microcosm of conflict, and it almost foreshadows all the challenges that he's going to encounter later on in his dream.
Oh, that's a great point.
Yeah,
It's like a little mini preview.
exactly. And you'll see this seemingly minor event becomes like a recurring motif that pops up in different forms throughout the whole story.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's like it represents this universal struggle that goes beyond cultural boundaries.
Yeah. Okay, so that night, the king has this incredibly vivid dream, and in it, his portrait is attacked, which I guess you could see as, like a symbol of his authority.
Right, like an attack on him personally almost.
Yeah, and they steal his crown from the portrait and throw it in the mud.
Which is a pretty powerful image, right?
Yeah.
Like a symbol of his power being degraded.
Right.
It suggests this vulnerability, this fear of losing control.
And then this is where it gets weird. Suddenly that very page from the book that he was reading appears, and it's like shielding him from the attackers.
Like a protective talisman almost.
Yeah.
Symbolic of the knowledge and understanding that he gained from studying all those different cultures.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, what role does knowledge actually play in protecting us from harm?
Right. And then it gets even weirder.
Okay.
The dream shifts, and he sees this massive mountain under siege.
Okay.
Enemies are everywhere trying to climb it, but they're constantly being repelled somehow.
So what's stopping them?
Well, at the base of the mountain, there's this tablet with an inscription,
Yeah.
and it says, "Only those possessing years can climb."
Years? What does that even mean?
I know, it's so cryptic.
Is it talking about age, experience, wisdom? Like, what is years?
Yeah, it's deliberately ambiguous, but the story does give us another clue.
Okay.
Anyone who tries to climb this mountain mysteriously loses their years.
What?
Yeah,
Okay.
and it creates these massive piles of years at the bottom.
So it's like knowledge or experience, wisdom itself is actually a barrier to entry.
Exactly. It's like they're being weighed down by their years.
Wow. It's like the opposite of what you'd expect.
Right. It completely flips that traditional idea that knowledge is power.
So what kind of knowledge are we talking about here? What's so special about this mountain?
Those are great questions. And honestly, the story doesn't give us easy answers,
Of course not.
but that's part of what makes it so compelling.
Okay.
It makes us think critically and draw our own conclusions.
All right. So the king wakes up from this crazy dream, and what's the first thing he does? He goes right back to that page in the book. The one that was shielding him.
Of course.
And surprise, surprise, it turns out that this page details the customs of the Israelites.
His own people.
His own people.
Yeah.
And this realization sparks something in him. It's like he senses there's something really profound going on here.
He's shaken by it, obviously.
Yeah.
He knows it means something.
Yeah, and so he decides to embark on this quest for answers. He disguises himself as a commoner and goes to find a sage who can interpret his dream.
Wow. He goes incognito.
I know. Why do you think he does that?
It shows humility, He could have just summoned someone to the palace.
Oh, yeah.
But instead, he chooses to travel as an equal, seeking knowledge for its own sake.
Interesting. So he eventually finds this sage who uses a very unique approach to dream interpretation, shall we say?
Right. It involves a special blend of incense that allows the individual to explore their own subconscious,
Yeah.
to delve into past lives and hidden memories.
And the king is desperate for answers, so he agrees to undergo this ritual. And that's when things take a really unexpected turn.
Buckle up.
He experiences this vision of his soul's journey before birth, and it's revealed that no one claims any debt against him.
It's a clean slate, like he starts with no karmic burden.
But then this mysterious figure appears and is totally against the king's soul entering the world.
Yeah, out of nowhere.
Hold on. Who is this figure, and why are they so opposed to the king being born?
The story only identifies them as the Hebrew letters Semek Mem,
Okay.
which has puzzled scholars for centuries.
Right. I could see why.
But in Kabbalistic tradition, these letters represent a spiritual guardian,
Oh, wow.
a protector of hidden knowledge and the secrets of creation.
So this figure's objection isn't just like a personal opinion. It's reflecting a deeper cosmic order.
Right. It suggests that the king's birth and his destiny are tied to forces that are way beyond human comprehension.
It's like his whole existence is the result of this cosmic negotiation, which really makes you think about free will versus predetermination.
Huge questions.
I know.
Are we really in control of our lives?
Yeah, or are we just playing out these roles in some big cosmic drama?
Exactly. And the story doesn't give us an easy answer.
It never does it?
It wants us to think about these things ourselves.
All right, so this figure, this guardian, eventually allows the king's soul to enter the world, but it feels like some kind of compromise was made.
Right, like a deal was struck.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, what are the implications of this agreement? What's going to happen to the king?
Well, and to make it even more intriguing, there are hints of other details in this vision.
Hmm.
Something about captives from the king's conquests and a woman with borrowed beauty.
Hold on, wait, so there's more.
But it's not fully explained in the story.
You're killing me with the suspense.
I know, right?
What do these missing pieces mean?
It's hard to say for sure, but they seem to hint at consequences for the king's actions, both past and future.
So it's not all about celebrating military triumphs. There's this moral complexity to it.
Exactly. The story is about more than just interpreting a dream. It's about reflecting on the complexities of being human.
It makes you think about how our past actions shape our present, and maybe how we're bound by forces we don't even realize.
That's a really interesting point. It goes back to that whole question of fate and free will.
Okay, so we're going to come back to that, but first I want to talk about something that's been bugging me.
Okay.
At the end of the story, it specifically mentions Psalm 3. Why bring that in?
Ah, yes. The psalm connection. It's subtle, but it's actually crucial for understanding the deeper layers of the story.
Okay, so it's more than just a literary flourish.
Oh, yeah, much more. Remember how the psalm talks about being surrounded by enemies?
Uh-huh.
That feeling resonates with both the king's dream and his potential reality as a ruler.
Right, so you're saying there's a parallel between the king's inner turmoil and his external challenges as a leader.
Exactly. But it goes even deeper than that. Psalm 3 also emphasizes finding strength and solace in faith, even when facing adversity.
So it's not just about recognizing the struggles, but also about finding a way to overcome them through faith and resilience.
Precisely. And that message of hope and perseverance is central to Rabbi Nachman's teachings.
Wow, Psalm 3 is like a roadmap for dealing with the tough stuff in life.
I like that. It reminds us we're not alone in our struggles.
Right.
There's a source of strength we can tap into.
That's powerful. And this story ends with this really strong call to contemplation, like urging us to think about the symbols and their meanings.
It's not giving us the answers. It's encouraging us to dig deeper.
It's like we're giving the key to a treasure chest, but we have to unlock it ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that process of discovery is where the real magic happens.
I think our listeners are going to be hooked.
I hope so.
Yeah.
It's an amazing story.
All right, well, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
But there's still so much more to unpack.
Oh, yeah.
So stay tuned for part 2, where we're going to delve even deeper into the mysteries of this fascinating Hasidic tale.
Anyway.
All right, so we're back, and my mind is still spinning from that vision the king had, of his soul's journey before birth.
Yeah, it's a pretty wild concept, isn't it?
Totally. It's like the story took a sharp turn into this whole mystical realm.
Definitely. And it leaves us with these little hints about things that might be influencing his destiny. We can't ignore those details about the captives and that woman with the borrowed beauty.
Right. Yeah, I keep coming back to that woman. What's the deal with her beauty being borrowed? I mean, that just seems so strange.
It's a great question. It makes us think about what we even consider valuable and beautiful. What if true beauty isn't really about appearances?
Right. Like maybe it's something deeper than that.
Exactly. What if it's something that comes from within?
And then there are the captives from his conquests. It adds this whole layer of moral complexity to the story.
Yeah, it's like this shadow hanging over his victories.
Hmm.
Their presence in the vision could symbolize the consequences of his actions,
Hmm.
like a reminder of the human cost of war.
So it's not just about celebrating military triumphs. It's about acknowledging the ethical implications of leadership
Yeah.
and, that burden of responsibility that comes with power.
Exactly. The story is about prompting a deeper reflection on the human experience.
Yeah.
It's not just about interpreting a dream.
It makes me think about how our past actions can shape our present
Yeah,
and how we might be bound by things that are totally outside of our control.
that's a really insightful connection. And it speaks to the story's exploration of fate versus free will.
Hmm.
Are we really the masters of our own destiny?
Or are we just puppets, in this grand cosmic play?
It's a question that people have been asking for centuries.
And this story definitely doesn't give us a clear-cut answer.
Well, maybe that's the point.
Right.
Mm.
Maybe it's not about finding the answer, but about wrestling with the question.
Exactly.
Okay, so before we get too deep into that, I want to circle back to something we haven't really talked about yet.
Yeah.
At the end of the story, it mentions Psalm 3.
Oh, right.
What's the significance of that? Why bring that in?
Yes, the psalm connection. It seems subtle, but it's actually crucial to understanding the deeper layers of the story.
So it's more than just, a nice literary touch.
Oh, yeah, much more. Remember how the psalm talks about being surrounded by enemies?
Yeah.
Well, that feeling resonates with the king's dream and also with his potential reality as a ruler.
So it's like a bridge between his internal struggles and his external challenges.
Precisely. But it goes even further than that. Psalm 3 also highlights this theme of finding strength and solace in faith, even when you're facing all kinds of adversity.
So it's not just about acknowledging those struggles, it's also about finding a way to overcome them through faith and resilience.
Exactly. And that message of hope and perseverance is a core part of Rabbi Nachman's teachings.
So Psalm 3 is almost like a guide for navigating the challenges of life, both internal and external.
I like that. It's a reminder that we're not alone in those struggles.
And that there's a source of strength we can tap into. Okay, and the story wraps up with this powerful call to contemplation. Like it's really urging us to think deeply about these symbols and their meanings.
Yeah, it's not giving us all the answers. It's encouraging us to do our own digging.
It's like we're given the key to a treasure chest, but we have to unlock it ourselves.
Exactly. And that process of discovery, that's where the real magic is.
I think our listeners are really going to appreciate that.
I hope so.
Because it's not passive, right? It's about engaging with the material.
Right.
And coming to your own conclusions.
That's the beauty of it. Rabbi Nachman wanted to spark something in people's minds.
Yeah, it's not about being told what to think. It's about figuring it out for yourself.
Exactly. And sometimes those answers come from within.
So what do you think? What are some of the things our listeners might take away from this story?
Well, there's a lot to unpack. But one thing that stands out to me is the idea that we might be influenced by forces we're not even aware of.
Like those hidden strings you were talking about earlier?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that can be both a scary and a comforting thought.
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, it's a little unnerving to think that we might not be in total control.
Right.
But on the other hand, it also suggests that we're part of something bigger than ourselves.
And that there's a purpose, even in the midst of all the chaos.
I like that. And I think the story also highlights the importance of self-discovery and confronting those inner demons.
Definitely. The king's journey to find the sage and his willingness to delve into his past, it all speaks to this deep yearning for growth and understanding.
And that's something we can all relate to, right?
It's a universal human experience, wanting to make sense of our lives and connect with something beyond ourselves.
Exactly. And I think Rabbi נחman did something really interesting here. He deliberately left us with unanswered questions.
He did. That's part of his style.
So it's not a neat and tidy package. It's an invitation to really engage with the material, to wrestle with these mysteries and come up with our own interpretations.
And sometimes those most profound answers come from within,
Yeah, it's about listening to that inner voice, that intuition.
Exactly.
And being open to those unexpected insights.
It's not about finding all the answers, but about embracing the mystery in that journey of self-discovery.
I love that. And I think that's a perfect note to end on.
I agree.
So to all our listeners out there, as you go about your day, let this story kind of linger in your mind. Think about the symbols and the themes and those unanswered questions.
What resonates with you? What insights have you gleaned from this deep dive?
Exactly. And how does it all connect to your own life, your own struggles, your own search for meaning?
We'd love to hear your thoughts and interpretations. You can share them with us on social media, discuss them with friends, or just let them simmer in your mind.
It's all good.
Remember, this journey of discovery doesn't end here. It's an ongoing process, and we're all in it together.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the conversation going. All right, so we've been really unpacking this ascetic story layer by layer, and I have to say, it's pretty incredible how much depth and symbolism is packed in here.
Yeah, it's really rich.
And one of the things that keeps coming back to me is that mysterious figure, Mem, the one who appears in the king's vision.
Right, that figure is really key to understanding the mystical dimension of the story.
Oh.
Remember, it's not just a random name. Those are 2 Hebrew letters with huge significance in Kabbalistic tradition.
Okay, so for those of us who haven't really delved into the world of Kabbalah, can you kind of break that down for us? What do those letters actually represent?
Sure. So in Kabbalah, each letter of the Hebrew alphabet is associated with specific divine attributes and cosmic forces. And Samech Mem together often symbolize a kind of spiritual guardian, a protector of hidden knowledge and, those secrets of creation.
Oh, wow. So this figure's objection to the king's soul entering the world, it's not just like a personal opinion, it's like a reflection of this deeper cosmic order.
Exactly. It suggests that the king's birth and his destiny are kind of intertwined with forces that are way beyond what we can even comprehend.
And the fact that this guardian eventually allows the king's soul to enter the world, it implies that some kind of compromise was made, right? Like a delicate balance between divine will and human agency.
It's almost as if the king's very existence is the result of this cosmic negotiation, which raises some pretty profound questions about free will versus predetermination.
I know this whole concept is kind of blowing my mind. Are we truly in control of our lives, or are we just playing out roles in this huge cosmic drama?
Big questions, right?
Yeah.
And the story doesn't offer easy answers.
Of course not.
But it encourages us to consider that maybe there are forces at work that we don't fully see.
It's definitely humbling to think that even our smallest actions might be part of this much larger tapestry woven by, forces we can't fully grasp.
It is humbling, but it can also be strangely liberating. It reminds us that we're not alone in our struggles, that there's a sense of purpose and meaning, even in the midst of all the chaos.
I love that perspective. It's not about feeling powerless, but recognizing that we're part of something so much greater than ourselves.
Exactly. And that idea of interconnectedness, it's really at the heart of Rabbi Nachman's teachings. He believed that everything in the universe is connected from the smallest atom to the grandest star.
So how does this story, with all its mystical elements, how does it fit into the broader context of his teachings?
Well, Rabbi Nachman was famous for using parables and stories to convey these really complex spiritual concepts. And this story specifically, it really emphasizes the importance of self-discovery, confronting our inner demons and embracing the challenges that life throws at us.
Right. Like the king's journey to find the sage, his willingness to face his past and explore his subconscious. It all points to this deep yearning for growth and understanding.
He's on a quest for truth, right? A deeper understanding of himself and his place in the universe. And that's a journey that each of us can relate to.
Totally. It's like a universal human experience, this desire to make sense of our lives and, connect with something bigger than ourselves.
And I think Rabbi Nachman deliberately left us with some unanswered questions in this story. It's not meant to be a neat and tidy package.
Right. It's not like a simple lesson.
It's an invitation to engage with the material, to wrestle with the mysteries, and find our own interpretations.
It's like he's giving us a starting point, but the real journey is up to us. It's about asking those tough questions and being open to answers that we might not expect.
And sometimes those most profound answers come from within. It's about listening to our intuition, paying attention to those whispers of our soul.
That's beautiful. I love that. It's not about finding all the answers, but about embracing the mystery and that journey of self-discovery.
Well said. This story is meant to be something we actively engage with. It's a conversation starter, a catalyst for deeper thought and self-reflection.
And I think it's safe to say that we've only scratched the surface of this parable. There's so much here to unpack, to ponder, to debate.
And that's the beauty of it. This story isn't meant to be passively consumed, but actively engaged with. It's a conversation starter, a catalyst for deeper thought and self-reflection.
Well, I think it's safe to say this has been a truly deep dive.
It has been.
And I'm sure our listeners have been on this fascinating journey right alongside us.
I hope so. It's been a pleasure exploring this really rich and multi-layered parable.
So to all our listeners out there, as you go about your day, let the story linger in your mind. Think about those symbols, the themes, the questions that we've left unanswered. What resonates with you? What insights did you get from this deep dive?
And most importantly, how does it all connect to your own life, your struggles, your search for meaning?
We'd love to hear your thoughts and interpretations. Share them with us on social media, discuss them with friends, or just let them simmer in your mind.
Remember this journey of discovery. It doesn't end here. It's an ongoing process, and we're all in it together.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the conversation going.